quickly, as we close out this podcast, tell me what you think of each four teams' records. What do you think they're going to be next season?
See, I think the Ravens, obviously, I think they're going to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I really think teams are going to kind of start to shut them down a little bit because they're going to realize if you just stop Lamar, stop him from running. Not that is his only part of the game because everyone wants to say he's just a running back. He can actually throw the ball. If you start to get him out of his comfort zone, I think that teams could legitimately shut them down. I think the Bengals, it all just depends on their offensive line. Yeah, I think they have every chance at going 8-8 or 9-7. I really think they could. I really think they could be up there like that. But it just depends on that offensive line because I think our defense is short up now. They're fine. Their defense is leaps and bounds above what it was last year. We don't have
above average.
Yeah, we don't have those guys that are lagging behind that, like our number one corner last year. We all know how our corners went last year and how the Bengals corners went. They just weren't good. They did this, they did that. Guys got hurt. We had to switch other guys in, and it was kind of like plug and play. Like whoever was there is what we put in. So again, it all depends on their offensive line. I think they have every chance of going 9-7. I've looked at their schedule. I think they can go 9-7, 8-8, and we all know now that makes the playoffs with that extra team in.
Yeah, I personally see them going 7-9, 8-8. I want to give them a winning record, but I have to see more from coaching, and I have to see how well Joe Burrow does with that offensive line first. I know we've got the talent on defense to win us games. I know we've got the talent, at least on the skill position on offense, to win games. You just got to see them all gel together. Now, you mentioned the Ravens first. I think the Ravens will probably go 12-4 next season, 11-5.
Yeah, close to that. Yeah.
I don't think they'll be as dominant. I am a big believer, and I feel like when a team loses bad in the playoffs, and you can just watch any team that loses bad in the playoffs, they don't do good the next season. But this team is good enough to win that many games outright, even with that bad luck. So I see them going 12-4.
Yeah, you've always been that bad juju guy.
I just believe in the bad juju. I don't know what it is.
It's shutting down.
Like you can look at the Falcons in the Super Bowl loss. You can look at the
Rams.
You can look at the Panthers. You can look at just any of the last 10 teams except for the Patriots, because the Patriots are a whole different animal altogether.
They do what they want to.
And the teams that lost in the Super Bowl or lost really bad in the playoffs usually don't do well.
You know, to be fair, even though the Patriots lost, they kind of flipped that on its head. The Eagles weren't great after that. Like they had that Super Bowl and then they just didn't go anywhere after that.
Yeah, part of that is just, that was all right timing, and they had there's two things: momentum and bad juju. And if you have really good momentum and then you end it with bad juju, they might counterbalance it. I don't know. We'll see. But
I think all this bad juju is a bunch of nonsense.
It might be a bunch of nonsense, but that's just my belief. It's just my belief, my sports belief.
Your sports beliefs on that one.
Yeah. And then we have the Browns and the Steelers. So we went 7-9 for the Bengals, 12-4 for the Ravens, and
so my thing again for the Browns, it's all going to consist on if they can gel together. Because last season we all know if you're around any Browns fan at all, they were like, we're heading to the Super Bowl. We're heading to the Super Bowl. We have no other option but to go to the Super Bowl. And then you kind of saw how it played out. And a lot of them, see, my problem with a lot of Browns fans, not all of them, so don't flame me in the comments here, but a lot of Browns fans, they're like, well, it's this one person's fault. It's this one person's fault. They want to kind of find a singularity. And I think that's just kind of like human nature a little bit. You want to find a single reason for why something isn't going right. Because in our minds, it's too complex to say this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, or the whole offense in general, the whole defense in general, or our special teams is letting us down a lot. So they want to be like, oh, it's Freddie Kitchens' fault. It's Freddie Kitchens' fault. And before that, we all know their quarterback woes, how they're like, oh, it's the quarterback's fault. It's the quarterback's fault. When some of those guys, some of them didn't pan out, but like Sam Bradford coming out of college, like Sam Bradford was freaking lights out. And then they get Sam Bradford in there, and he's not really anything. And is that their offensive line? I don't know. Wasn't avidly watching the Browns play. I saw them when they played the Bengals, of course, because we're Bengals fans. We watched them play, and you can see kind of where things are going wrong. But back to the record. I mean, I think they have every chance of being just positive, like 9-7 ish, or or even just 500. I think they have the potential. If you're just looking at potential alone, they have potential to be like legitimate contenders with the Ravens. If you're looking at just what they have, what they're going with, they have that chance. But I just think it's you got to get guys gelling. If they could get guys working together, moving together, kind of cogs in a machine type thing, if they can all get rotating at the same speed, kind of get going, they have legitimate chances to be like deep playoff runners. But again, you have to get that, or you're just not going to have anything. You could bring in the best players of all time. You bring in, say, Randy Moss with Julio Jones, with like Tom Brady
Some
or
Madden
Joe
Ultimate Team
Montana.
here.
Yeah, some Madden Ultimate Team type stuff. But if their personalities can't work together, or they can't put their differences aside, or their egos aside to just be good as a team, again, like I said earlier, with the Patriots, a lot of those guys, it's a little known fact, some people might know, a lot of those guys take pay cuts every year. They took pay cuts every year so they could stay on a team and that team could stay great. And they all put their egos aside so that they could. The kind of only ego in the room was Bill Belichick. Like he was the only guy who was allowed to be like that guy. And even Bill Belichick, we all know he's just the most somber dude on the planet. Like he's even if at his draft day, if you guys watched the draft, he was at home, he was feeding his dog treats, and then he'd just walk off and be off camera for forever, and then he'd come back and he'd just be kind of dull and just so with yeah, like I said, they have all the potential in the world, but we'll see where that potential goes because like I said, the Browns fans last year were destination Super Bowl, and that
Yeah.
obviously didn't happen.
I want to say with the Stefanski head coach that they're gonna go 9-7 or 10-6. Now the thing about this is, I think what is going to end up determining this is the Steelers because I think they'll go 9-7, 10-6 too. I think one of those teams is going to sweep one or the other,
Yeah.
depending on what happens with Big Ben, what happens with Baker Mayfield's development. I'm predicting Baker Mayfield takes another step forward. And I'm predicting Big Ben to maybe regress a little bit, become more of a game manager.
Mm-hmm.
But with this scenario, all 4 teams make it to the playoffs.
Yep.
And what's crazy is that, you know, even with this happening, there is a chance that only one of these teams,
Yep,
and they could just all come crashing down. I think the only legitimate team that doesn't have a chance of crashing is the Ravens, just because of their team alone. But
that's what's kind of crazy with the extra team in the playoffs. So you do have that extra team. So everyone's like, oh, these teams that are 8-8 and like 9-7, kind of on the cusp kind of thing. It can still even happen. Like two teams in your division go 9-7, and neither of them make the playoffs because another one in another division won, say, 11 games. Like things like that can happen. But with the Steelers, I think they are the only team in the AFC North that legitimately have a chance of being bad, like bad, if you know what I'm saying. Because yeah, they have that defense, but that offense, you got to be like, they have a lot of pieces that their offense can make happen.
yeah, if
But
Big
it
Ben,
all relies on Big Ben and how he kind
if
of
he ends up
progresses.
being a dud, it'll be a rough season for them because they'll just be on the cusp of being like so good, but
Yeah,
just fall
it'll
flat.
be one of those things where you can see that they're a really good team. They're always in games, but they're going to lose by 3 or lose by 6 or lose by 7 kind of thing. Where and that'll end up with a worse record, like a bad record kind of thing. You'll see the stretch where they go 0-4, 0-5. Not necessarily the beginning of the season going 0-4, 0-5, but like they'll have 3 wins, and or week 6 they'll be like 3-3, and then they'll go on like a 5-game losing streak kind of thing, or something like that.
Yeah.
So again, it just all relies on Ben's arm. I think they have a chance of being really good, but they also have the extreme chance, and I think the only chance in the whole division to be really bad. Because even if the Bengals don't perform the way they should, based on their pickups and kind of how they're rolling, I still don't think they lose, or I still don't think they win less than 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think there's no way that
I
happens.
think the Steelers could have potential to tank for whoever. They actually have
tank for Lawrence.
take for Lawrence, and if they did, I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't want to go through quarterback woes either. But are you willing to sacrifice a season? With all the bad stuff happening currently with with Juju stuff. Maybe it is time for them to move on from Big Ben and his injury history, and who knows?
I really think they do need to start not the Ben could still be a legitimate quarterback because we all know Tom Brady's 3 trillion years old. No offense to anyone who's older than Tom Brady, but I really think that Tom Brady is kind of just a lone wolf. Like, he's special kind of thing. Whereas Big Ben, obviously we know Brady hasn't been hurt as much as Ben has, but Ben could come back and be really good for another couple of years. But they have to start looking at either college quarterbacks to replace or young.
If last year wasn't an indication of it, then
yeah. And it's kind of the same way. Not to get off too much off topic towards the end here, but with the Saints, they started looking for quarterbacks to kind of replace Drew Brees, because we know Drew Brees is getting up there. He got hurt last season. He did come back and he did have a really good season, but you start to look at it and see that these guys aren't superhumans and that they can't just last forever. Like, Tom Brady is crazy, but again, Tom Brady in the next couple of years, we'll have to see. He says he wants to play till some 50 or something like that, but I don't know how well that's going to work for him.
Yeah, we'll definitely see